What's up, everybody? Welcome into the Next Pats podcast. I'm Phil Perry. Fantastic episode for you this week, a conference championship week edition of Next Pats. We're bringing in our good friend, two-time Super Bowl champion, Rob Ninkovich, to talk about this Patriots and Broncos matchup. Not only can he tell us what it's like to prepare for a backup quarterback and how seriously you have to take number twos at that position when they're stepping into new roles, but he also gives us great insight into how Sean Payton will handle this week, a week in which nobody believes in his football team. Ninkovich actually played for Payton down in New Orleans, so he can give us great detail on the kinds of things Payton is telling his team this week. But before we get to Rob, let's start with the Patriots offense against the Broncos defense when it comes to this matchup, because Drake Maye has a massive challenge on his hands. Another phenomenal defense after facing the Texans in the divisional round and the Chargers in the wild card round. He has fumbled 6 times. It hasn't always looked pretty, but he's made enough in the way of plays in order to get the Patriots to this point. But I asked him earlier this week if he feels like he has to change his big game hunters approach at all going to Denver, understanding just how hard it is to hold on to the football for extended periods of time and still be able to protect the football. I think you're going to find his answer fascinating. Here it is.
No, I don't think trying to change it. I think last week you change it in case Sean doesn't make the play. So little things like that, just knowing the time and place for it. I think trying to get the ball out of my hand and just being cognizant of the edge rushers and taking care of the football is the number one thing. So if we have time and have a look downfield, you know me, I'm going to take a look and take a shot.
He's going to take a shot if he gets the opportunity. That's what's in his DNA. That's who he is. And why suggest to him that he should do anything else? It's what helped get the Patriots to this point. It's part of the reason why they had the number 1 explosive play rate in football this year. But the Broncos, they're number 1 in sack rate. They're number 3 in pressure rate. And while holding on to the football worked during the regular season for Drake Maye, during the postseason, it's been a different story. When he's held onto the ball for longer than 2.5 seconds in 2 playoff games, he's gone 11 for 24. That's a 45.8 completion percentage for 8.3 yards per attempt. Not bad. 1 touchdown, but 2 picks and 7 sacks, including 3 strip sacks. When he gets the ball out more quickly, he has been incredibly efficient against the Texans and the Chargers. He's connected on 22 of 32 passes. That's almost 70%, 68.8% completions for 247 yards, almost 8 yards per attempt, 3 touchdowns, no picks, and 3 sacks. So can he get it out quickly? Can he be that point guard that is distributing soon after he receives the ball behind center? Yes, and it's worked, and it should work again this weekend. But will he also be looking down the field for the chance to hit on a play like the one he hit to Kayshon Boutte deep down the right sideline against the Texans that helped put Houston away? Yes, he will. And that's the balance he's going to have to try to strike this weekend out in Denver. Remain true to who he is as a quarterback. Look for that shot down the field when it presents itself to you. But also, protect the football. Be as conservative as you need to be in order to survive, move on, and find yourself in your first career Super Bowl. All right, let's get to our conversation with Rob Ninkovich for more on Patriots Broncos right now. Oh my God, there he is, Rob Ninkovich, coming at you into your living rooms, your bars, wherever you might be watching this, consuming it right now on your phone. He's got the lid on. That looks for real. That's how I know he's going to bring the energy. He's going to bring the intensity to the Next Pats podcast. Thank you for being with us, Rob Ninkovich.
I'm jacked up right now. I'm ready to go. I want to bull rush somebody. Hey, Phil, this is what we need to do for your next podcast. You get the pads on, and I'll just sack you. That's it.
I'm open to that. Listen, I'm welcoming that. Do you have shoulder pads too, or are we just talking it's going to be like a rugby style sack?
I mean, I got everything. I got extra pads. I got everything. But
okay, good.
I need to take this off because I think my head has grown since the last time I played football. I think my head has grown a little bit because this thing's a little tight on my head.
Yeah, don't cut off the circulation to that melon. Is that a game? That's a game used. It looks game used.
Yeah, this is the last game I ever played in, so it has. There it is.
Super Bowl 51. Pretty good game.
There it is. That's the last one. So, yeah, that's exciting. I like to throw that on every once in a while for the kids and run around the house, and they think I'm crazy. Dad's lost his mind. And I say, not yet. In about 20 years, maybe, but not yet.
Not yet. But also,
Not
it's
yet.
conference championship week, so I know that the juices are probably just flowing for you right now. And I did want to ask you this right off the top, because you're a guy who's played up against a number of different backup quarterbacks over the years, Rob. What would be your reaction when you'd be in the facility and you'd hear from your coaching staff, Bill Belichick or someone else, we got a backup quarterback this week?
We got to focus on us and what we do and take care of what you do, which will take care of any quarterback you're facing, even if it's the starter. Because we all know that these are professionals. They've all got talent. They've all been, at the highest level for a reason. So Stidham, the whole Stidham thing, he hasn't thrown a ball in 3 years. I don't like the whole, just writing him off to he's just a backup. There's a reason why he's with Sean Payton. Sean Payton's a very smart coach. He likes smart players. Usually when a head coach comes in, and we saw this with Vrabel, they go through the whole roster, and they basically take everybody out that's not their guy. So they go and they get their own people. Well, Stidham was there. Sean comes in. Russell Wilson is paid a $60 million. I think he's still the highest paid guy on their team right now. So there's a reason they kept Stidham around. They believe in him understanding the system and putting in the game plan. I would say Sean is confident with Stidham. In the past, when I've played backup quarterbacks, I think about, just off the top of my head, Matt Flynn, Green Bay Packers, came here to New England and beat us. I don't want to say the name, but we know Nick Folk, how that turned out. Foles, with in the Super Bowl, that was crazy. Threw for 370 something yards. Won that game, and nobody really gave him a chance. Dan Orlovsky, I think he threw for 400 and something yards. Even though he lost, he still came in, was able to throw the ball and gain some yards. So I would just say, don't sleep on the whole backup quarterback thing. They have a great defense. They probably have the best offensive line that the Patriots have faced all season. And they got a great head coach. And it's on the road in Denver, which is very tough. So this is going to come down to focusing on yourself, starting fast, winning the third phase. So special teams, I think, the kicking game might come into be a big factor in this game. I'll go back 10 years. It was the kicking game that kind of put us in a position 10 years ago for the AFC Championship game. So you just have to be on it in all three phases, and everything gets tighter in these games. It's a little bit harder. The margin for error is so thin there. You make one or two bad plays, it could be the game. So I think this whole week is focusing on the Patriots, what we need to do, what we're going to go out there and control this game, take the crowd out of it. It all comes down to focusing on yourself and not worrying about who's under center.
All right, so Rob Ninkovich says you have to take Jarrett Stidham seriously. Makes sense. You guys were always a well-prepared team, a well-prepared defense, and if you're going to steal a phrase from Mike Vrabel, take a nap against a backup quarterback, bad things could happen. So great perspective there from you. You also have a great perspective to share with us because you played for Sean Payton. You were there in New Orleans with Sean Payton years ago, but what do you think Sean Payton is telling his team right now to get them going, to motivate them before they host the Patriots as home underdogs, Rob?
Honestly, I think as a head coach, you stand in front of the room, you say, listen, this didn't start last week. This didn't start 3 weeks ago. This started in training camp. We were built for this right now. Fighting, scratching, clawing to put ourselves in a position to even get to this game. And it takes a lot. There's a lot of luck involved, staying healthy, a full 17-game season. So really just going out there and focusing on what you're really good at, which, Denver, obviously they have a good defense. They get after you. Offensively, their offensive line is strong. Maybe they rely a little bit more on the running game, with Stidham in there, trying to set up more play action passes. I know the Patriots the last couple of weeks have brought more pressure. So if they do bring that pressure, having the understanding, if you're a slot receiver, if we alert something, if we see someone coming, you have to be ready to turn around and catch a ball, because the ball's got to come out fast. So I think Sean, being an offensive guy and having Drew Brees for so long and being so good at game planning and offense, he's going to come up with a plan that takes some of the pressure off Stidham. If the guy's open, it's designed this way, throw it, hit him, let him catch the ball. If things are tight, let's not do what C.J. Stroud did last week and throw it into a team meeting. We have to protect the football. We cannot be careless with the ball. So taking care of the football is number one, and just trusting the offense, letting the offense do, what they like to do. And now Bo Nix was more of a mobile guy. If you watch him through the year, he can get out of situations and use his legs and run for first downs. I think Stidham is limited in that aspect. So if you're the Patriots and you're looking at how do we game plan Stidham, you really want to make sure that everything's kind of muddy in the inside. So the B gap, which is very vital for a quarterback to see down the field, don't just run up the field and open up really big B gaps for him to see through. Condense the pocket, keep him in a tight pocket, and keep him uncomfortable. Really, that's what you want to do. He hasn't thrown a pass in a regular season game in 3 years. So if you're Sean Payton, you're designing stuff to take a little pressure off the quarterback.
And knowing Payton the way you do, and knowing that there aren't a lot of people who think his team can win this game, Rob, do you think he's trying to use that? Do you think he's telling his team, hey, nobody believes, would he be the kind of coach to find that motivation, whether it's in the media or it's stuff that maybe he's hearing from the Patriots themselves? What would he do to get his team going in a situation like this?
In a team meeting, Sean's pretty boisterous and very confident. So I think he would probably just tell them straight up, listen, nobody's giving us a chance right now, and it's in our home stadium. They're coming to us, and nobody's giving us a chance. And yeah, it's unfortunate we lost Bo, but we have a group of guys here that we're going to go out here and we're going to play a tough physical football game. If you're scouting the Patriots offense, they've given up 4 balls in the last 2 weeks. So you have to make sure as an offense for the Patriots, that is taking care of the football, number one. That's the most important part of the game. I mean, we've seen championships won and lost by just one turnover. So taking care of the football, not making some dumb decisions and forcing things, which in these games, you can start to feel the pressure. You feel that this is the game that's going to take you to the Super Bowl. So kind of controlling your emotions and just playing the play that's called. Don't go beyond what you think or, try to take it over yourself. It takes everybody. There's a reason why it's a team. And, really, if I was standing in front of the team and I'm Sean, I'm saying this, they're saying we don't have a chance because of one guy, the quarterback. Well, I have faith in Stidham. I have faith in my offensive line. I have faith in the defense. And that's really what you have to have as a team. You just have to have faith that the guys that have to come and step up for those guys that are injured, they can do that at a high level and put you in a position to win.
Last thing I wanted to ask you before we get your prediction for this game, Rob. You made a living getting after opposing quarterbacks and trying to defeat offensive tackles. So your specialty, of course, is on the defensive side, but I think that makes you a little bit of an offensive line specialist too, specifically a tackle play specialist in terms of the things you liked or didn't like to see. When you've watched Will Campbell these last couple of weeks, is there anything he can do to ensure that he has a better performance against Denver than the last couple of weeks where he's admitted plays where he wants to have back?
Yeah, I would game plan and prepare for the tackles specifically. So I would take the film and break down step by step the footwork of the offensive line, the hands. Are they a low hand guy? Are they a double punch guy? You want to break things down step by step. So before the snap, what are they doing with their feet? Where are they looking? How do they like to kick slide on a 3-step drop, 5-step drop, 7-step drop? What does their footwork look like? So when I watch Campbell, and I know it's a completely different sport, but there's like baseball players, for example, they get in a slump. And how do they get out of that slump? Well, they just got to keep going, and they got to keep hitting, like swinging, keep swinging, get it next at bat, try to figure it out. And I think when you start to try to think about, okay, what am I doing here? What am I not doing here? It could potentially affect kind of the way you're playing. So, really for him, I think it's just regaining the confidence and saying, dude, I'm one of the best linemen in this league. I'm going to come out here and I'm going to perform at a high level. My team needs me. So I think he really just needs to focus in on his hips. And sometimes if you watched last week, he was kind of opening his hips a little bit too much and turning, which he is very athletic. So I have played against guys that are athletic. They can turn and they could try to run you past the quarterback. But then it gets into, where's the quarterback going to be? If he's at 5 yards, you can do that. If he's at 9, you can't, because that's where the ball's going to be. So it's having an understanding of, okay, where's the quarterback going to be in the pocket? What am I doing with my feet? Am I flashing a guy with my inside hand to get him to do something, and then I'm latching onto him? Am I going like with 2 hands to try and get him to react to me, fake a punch, bring my hands back, and then grab him? There's all these different things that kind of go into the chess match of pass rushing and going against an offensive lineman. Number one is the bull rush. So when you really press an offensive lineman and you get into him, he has to consciously make a decision. I need to sit my weight down. I need to get my butt down and anchor to where I can take on this power and not get run back into the quarterback. Well, that's kind of your setup for how do you get to the edge. I would always get after a guy with power, act and show power, and then transition to the edge to where he's sitting and then can't react to the movement on the edge and then turn the corner. So those are all the different things that you're trying to go through your head. Okay, what's he coming with now? Is it going to be speed? Is it going to be power? Is it going to be a long arm? Is he going to double swipe me? All these different factors go into protection. And then on top of it, they might have a chipper. They might have some help. And I think he even talked about it. I haven't been great when I've had help sometimes, and it doesn't make sense. Well, if I knew I was going to get chipped, sometimes I'd make an inside move on the chip, because it would help me get inside quicker. It's almost like a pinball. It's an instant inside move right off a contact, and the tackle, thinking he's got the help, is a little bit, he's lackadaisical. He's thinking, oh, I got some time, and then bang, you get inside. So I think there's a lot of things that go into understanding when I'm having the help. Where is that coming from? Is it from the backs or is it from the tight ends? And, working with those guys together to where you're not getting pressure on the quarterback.
I love that insight, and now I want to know who you think is going to be able to wear one of those big shiny helmets that you just had on earlier for us in the Super Bowl. Rob, who's going to Santa Clara? How do you see this one playing out?
So I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. I'm taking the Patriots by a touchdown, 17-10. That's what I'm going with. So I don't see a shootout. I really don't. I see a low-scoring affair. Both defenses have been playing really well, and at the end of the day, I'm a fan of defense. So let's see that type of game play out.
I agree with you. Low scoring. You're going up against a backup quarterback. Hard for me to envision the way the Patriots defense is playing, that the Broncos are going to put up a bunch of points, but the Broncos, obviously, one of the best defenses in football. So the Patriots will be moving on and playing in the Super Bowl. Hard to believe, hard to even process those words as they come out of my mouth. Rob Ninkovich, 2-time Super Bowl champion. Rob Ninkovich, thank you for being with us, sharing so much intel, and for wearing your helmet. Hopefully we'll see you in the streets of New England somewhere very soon, rocking that thing, going nuts. Make sure, by the way, folks, watch this guy on the Dan and Ninko show with Dan O'Brien. Fantastic job by those guys. Watch, listen, wherever you get your podcasts. They do a great job.
Check it out. We have a good time. We have fun.
Thank you, buddy. Talk to you soon.
All right. See you, Phil. Bye.
Coming up on the next Pats podcast, yes, we're talking a little draft. Senior Bowl coming up. We're also taking some of your mail. It's all next on Next Pats. Welcome back to Next Pats. We're going to launch right into our Who's Next segment. And boy, oh boy, what a week we have coming up for all you draft freaks out there. And hand up, I'm including myself in that group. It's the Senior Bowl. Senior Bowl practices, which we know much more important, much more competitive, generally speaking, than the game itself. Those are coming up this week, the week leading up to the Super Bowl. And as it is every year, will be a great opportunity to get to know some of these players that might be coming from a little bit smaller programs, but having the opportunity to go up against some of the best of the best. So a player like, for instance, Charles Deming, the 6'2" corner out of Stephen F. Austin, reportedly has run in the low 4.4s. This is a guy who has all kinds of traits, all kinds of length. And if he can go to Mobile and have himself a week, who knows where this guy ends up getting drafted. And maybe are the Patriots interested if they're looking for the number 2 of the future to be paired alongside Christian Gonzalez. How about a receiver like Ted Hurst from Georgia State? Yes, Georgia State. He'll have an opportunity to go against some great players on the defensive side. 6'3", 185 pounds, so maybe a little bit slight, but just coming off a 1,000-yard season at Georgia State and a smooth route runner, someone who looks like, even with his length, will be able to separate and maybe even do so in a phone booth. So a couple of small school players there. There is a much larger school player that I want to highlight here. Same position as Hurst. And a bigger player, a bigger body, that's Malachi Fields from Notre Dame, 6'4", 222 pounds. And the reason I bring his name up is because he fits that prototype, in some ways, of the big-bodied receiver you might like to pair with Drake Maye for the future. Somebody that you could float the football up to, who has a tremendous catch radius, who will be competitive at the catch point. Somebody that Mike Vrabel, I think, would appreciate as well because of his willingness to block, and at that size, you might even be able to use him a little bit like a tight end. Would you have maybe a Mac Hollins type here in Malachi Fields in terms of his play style, his play demeanor? Might not have the same sort of long speed that Hollins does. Hollins, remember, way back when he was drafted, was considered one of the best special teams players in the draft because of that long speed, because of that willingness to be physical. But Malachi Fields, as an X receiver on the outside, bigger body, say the Patriots, they can't land somebody like Alec Pierce in free agency, who we've talked about on this podcast before, the big-bodied wide receiver from the Indianapolis Colts, who's going to be a free agent. Well, maybe now you're looking at somebody in the draft, and maybe Fields on day 2 or day 3 would fit that mold. Let's see how he performs at the Senior Bowl. The Senior Bowl really going to be highlighted by its strength at defensive end. Some of the names that you've heard here on NextPats over the course of the season, some of the best players in the country at this premium position will be at the Senior Bowl. How about from Miami? Both Ruben Bain and Akeem Mesidor. Mesidor we talked about just last week. Bain we talked about one of the first episodes of the season. Those guys have been fantastic all year long. They'll both be at the Senior Bowl. How about Clemson's TJ Parker, potential first-round pick? He'll be down there. From Texas Tech, both David Bailey and Romello Height. We've talked about them both here on the pod. They'll be there. Derek Moore as well, experienced player, good size on the edge for Michigan. He'll be at the Senior Bowl. But there's one name. Again, let's talk about some of the more under-the-radar guys, because these are the guys who really have the best chance to improve their stock. If you can go down to Mobile and have yourself a week, you might be able to launch yourself into the from undrafted into the drafted conversation, or from the day 3 conversation into the day 2 conversation, and in some rare cases, maybe even from day 2 to day 1, depending on how you perform. Now, the name I'm going to bring up here is one that, unless you're a Boston College fan, you maybe haven't heard a whole lot about, but it's Quintavious Hutchins from BC. Obviously played for Mike Vrabel's good buddy Bill O'Brien at the Heights. He was a captain for O'Brien. I think that matters when you're talking about caring about the kinds of people that you bring into your program. Mike Vrabel is going to be paying attention to these types of things. Obviously, he'd get a great scouting report from Bill O'Brien, from that BC staff. His son Tyler is there on the staff as well. And so you'd have all kinds of background on somebody like Hutchins to know whether or not he'd be the kind of person you want to bring into your program. So let's see how he performs. 6'3", 240 pounds. Again, looking like an edge defender. And it's okay if that sounds a little undersized to you, if that sounds maybe a little light to you at 240, because for Mike Vrabel, you look at guys like Harold Landry, Kayvon Chason. These aren't necessarily, those behemoth base 4-3 ends. They're looking at more stand-up linebacker types. And if you can get up the field, if you can show a little bit of explosiveness and be able to create havoc in opposing backfields, that's what Mike Vrabel is truly going to be interested in. So if Quintavious Hutchins can do that down at the Senior Bowl, let's put him on the Patriots' radar for this coming spring. All right, you know what time it is. It's time now for our mailbag, and we are going to continue to preview this conference championship matchup between the Patriots and the Broncos. And we're going to start right here with T.W. Penders who says, we've been blitzing to great success in our first 2 playoff games. I would think Denver will be preparing for that with Stidham at quarterback. I actually think it makes sense to play more coverage this week and try to confuse him, as the Denver O-line is far better in pass protection. Thoughts? It's an interesting conundrum facing the Patriots this week, TW. Do you continue to go with what has worked for you over the course of these first 2 playoff games? And that has been to blitz. Just some numbers on that right away, because it has been early and often that they have decided to bring pressure. When you look at it, they blitzed the Chargers 19 times and allowed just 2.7 yards per play, generating a 47.4 pressure rate with 3 sacks. That is tremendous in the way of results when adding extra rushers toward the line of scrimmage. And then against the Texans, they blitzed 18 times per Next Gen Stats, allowed just 3.7 yards per play and a 50% pressure rate. So do you approach this game with the attitude of, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, and continue to blitz to kingdom come your opposing quarterback? I think you do, especially this week against Jarrett Stidham. I understand what you're saying, TW. The Broncos have a fantastic offensive line, one of the best in football, especially when it comes to pass protection. Garrett Bowles led the NFL among left tackles in terms of pressure rate allowed. Sub 6%. Was the only one in football who was able to achieve that kind of number. Quinn Miners, friend of the Next Pats podcast. Quinn Miners, way back in the day when he was coming out of the draft, he has turned himself into one of the best pass protecting right guards in football. Those guys are all pro talents, and they help make everybody around them better. So why would you blitz them? I think because it might be really hard for you to generate pressure against those guys if you just decide to rush 4. And that matters, because under pressure, Jarrett Stidham has not been a good quarterback. And I know Jarrett Stidham hasn't played in about 2 years. So it's hard to say exactly what you're going to get from this guy. But over the course of his career to this point, 197 attempts. When kept clean, he completes almost 71% of his passes for 8.1 yards per attempt. When pressured, he completes just 40% of his passes for less than 6 yards per attempt, and 1/5 of his pressures turn into sacks. So you are getting a vastly different quarterback when somebody is breathing on Jarrett Stidham as opposed to not. So you could play coverage, and it might be smart just to mix it up. Don't blitz him 100% of the time, of course. Zach Core would never do that. But I think you want to remain aggressive, because if the key is to pressure Stidham, as it was with C.J. Stroud the week before, a far different quarterback under pressure versus kept clean. And they were able to blitz him, get after him. Now, that was a much lesser offensive line that the Patriots saw against Houston than the one they will be seeing out in Denver. But I think it's your best shot of generating pressure, because even with Milton Williams playing on another level right now, and he might be able to win some one-on-ones or maybe even beat some double teams if the Broncos decide to do that, how consistently will you be able to generate pressure against what is a very good pass-protecting offensive line? You might just have to throw numbers at the problem, and that might allow Jarrett Stidham to throw you the football. He's 90th out of 102 quarterbacks since he's come into the league who qualify in terms of the number of pass attempts that they have, at least 150 pass attempts. Jarrett Stidham is 90th among that group with a 4.1 interception rate. They have a chance to bother him and change the game with more turnovers, continuing that trend that they've been able to generate this postseason. Next question here from TJD, who asks, if Stidham has an average game with no turnovers, do you think Denver has a chance to win? Or does he have to play at a Bo Nix level? In my opinion, he really has to make sure that the hands are on 10-2 and that he doesn't turn it over. Where he might be able to make up for some of that which he doesn't bring to the table, that Nix does, i.e., making plays with his feet. Bo Nix has led this team in rushing for a number of weeks. Bo Nix has made more throws on the run than any quarterback in football this year. He's actually made more throws on the run than any quarterback in a season in the history of the Next Gen Stats era. That goes all the way back to 2016. So those moving pocket plays, those scramble drill plays, Jarrett Stidham's not a horrible athlete. We've seen him in person here. He's able to execute occasionally the play action boot and those types of concepts, but he's just not going to be the mover that Bo Nix has been. And so when he doesn't bring that to the table, how can he make up for that? Well, Bo Nix can be a little erratic at times. So if Jarrett Stidham is able to avoid that kind of play and simply not turn it over and simply finish every drive with a kick, whether it's a punt, a field goal, or a point after, then the Broncos do have a chance, because if they're able to play as well as they're capable of, even if their defense has not been world beaters of late, if they're able to reach their potential, if they're able to create turnovers on Drake Maye, if they're able to get pressure on that left side of the Patriots offensive line, sure, Jarrett Stidham could win, potentially, could win a low-scoring affair. Is it likely, though? It's not, which is why I'm picking the Patriots to win this game 20-13. All right, that'll do it for this edition of the Next Pats podcast. Thanks so much for listening. Thanks so much to Rob Ninkovich. And get ready for a Super Bowl run here in New England. Did you ever think we would be sitting here saying that? I think that's where we will be next week when we talk to you on Next Pats. We'll be preparing to go out to Santa Clara and gathering you all the intel you could possibly imagine before the Patriots make their way to the final game of the season and an opportunity to hoist another Lombardi trophy. Just sounds ridiculous coming out of your mouth, doesn't it? We'll talk to you next time.